Yeah, not much to add since Monday. Great to see everybody. Obviously, guys are excited. We're getting a little bit closer to the game and looking forward to it. So from there, we'll open it up to questions.
Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question, and I will call on you. We'll start with Alex Miller.
Hey, Mike, just wanted to ask, when it comes to the third down defensive success that you guys have had this year, just what's helped y'all be so consistent on first and second down that often leads to those third down stops?
Yeah, I think we've kind of found a rhythm at times to play and get people behind the chains. We've done a better job this year being havoc, creating TFLs, creating opportunities to push people backwards. I think like all of those things have improved from year one to year two, and I think that obviously leads to the distance situations we've been in third down and some of our success.
Thanks.
Brian Davis, we'll go over to you.
And Mike, now that you know the game's almost here, how much is your message to the guys? Just relax, go do what you've been doing all year. Don't make it bigger than it is, and do what you've been trained to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you have conversations about don't make it bigger than it is. I think our kids understand the volume and the magnitude of it. I think we talk a lot about what it takes to be successful and what it takes to be successful in football doesn't change regardless of stage, regardless of opponent. It's what we prepared for, it's what we worked for, it's what we trained for, and it's our ability to go out there and put our brand on display for 3.5 hours Saturday that'll ultimately make the difference.
And real quick, what in your mind? Because I'm sure there might be A&M fans, who've watched all season, but you're going to get a lot of people watching all over the country. What do you want them to see about Texas A&M football?
Yeah, that we're a really talented team that we're in the playoffs and we're excited to be there.
Tony, we'll go over to you.
Hey Mike, we got a chance to talk to Klein yesterday, and obviously Bateman, and Klein specifically talked about just the challenges of trying to build the Kansas State program and kind of making sure that he stays here and does what needs to be done for the guys here. But he credited you for being able to have that be so like smooth and just have synergy there. Can you just talk about what that has been like, maybe different from a normal week for you guys, and just what that game planning and working with Klein in this climate has been like for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's been a lot different. I think that obviously you have an extended period of time to put a game plan together, which leads for an ability to manage things a little bit better. And so I think we had an organized structure that we put in place to get everything up and running at the pace and speed that we wanted to pretty quickly. Which maybe has allowed for the game plan to get installed and freed up some opportunities for guys at night to do some of the other things that they need to do.
Sam Khan, we'll have you next.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you about Cassius. Last year he was in more of a rotational role. What is the kind of growth that you saw during that time that enabled him to set himself for the kind of year he's had this year?
Yeah, he was in a rotational role, but I think as you kind of recognize with us, like we play three defensive ends pretty regularly. We play three defensive tackles pretty regularly, and so I don't know that we view it that way. We view it like we have six starters, and so he would just happen to be the third one from a name recognition standpoint. But I think he was very productive. I think he was very dynamic. I think we utilized him a lot on third down. Obviously, he didn't put up the numbers and stats that he has this year, but I do think he impacted games last year, and I just think he was caught a little bit behind, three NFL draft picks from a stature standpoint, and so I think they drew naturally so a lot of the attention, and then obviously I think he put in a ton of work this offseason to help take his game to another level, and now he becomes the primary visual name also with a little bit of improvement from where he was a year ago. And that's what I think leads to kind of where he's at right now.
When you're taking a transfer from another conference, especially like the one that he was in, he was obviously very productive. But how do you identify, like, what are the traits you identify to say, hey, this guy can do this in the SEC? And what did y'all see in him when taking him that made y'all believe that he could turn into something like this?
Yeah, I think you're certainly not looking at production a ton when you're watching guys. I think what you're trying to do is identify, like, is there a skill set in the film that you think correlates and translates? And so what we saw with him was a high level of athleticism, a high level of twitch, some very natural pass rush ability, but an athletic twitch element that we felt like married what we saw in this conference. And I think that's what gave us the confidence that he would be able to transition into this league and still do the same things from a production standpoint. I think you also, when you're watching those guys, I think you focus a lot on what happens when they play up. And there's always a couple games where they're playing against Power Four competition, and that maybe gives you a chance to kind of see what it looks like in that sphere as well.
Donna, we'll have you go next.
Hey, coach, you talked about earlier this week just being able to, you know, go a couple weeks without having, game reps playing at full speed. How do you feel like you've been able to navigate these last couple weeks of practice, just being able to kind of create physicality while also towing that line and making sure everyone's staying healthy?
Yeah, I think we had a really good week last week. I think last week for us was very similar to what we would have done in fall camp from a preparation standpoint, and did a lot of good on good work, where we were going offense against defense and not really focused on scout work in Miami. And I think that's where we built the physicality and the tempo and the pace of play back to where we wanted it. And then we've been able to get into this week and have a really, really good practice as if we were coming off of a bye. And I think that's kind of how we've treated this week. We've got some schedules in place of, what does it need to look like coming off a bye where there's a little bit more intensity, there's a little bit more tempo, than when you're coming off of having played an SEC game the prior Saturday. And so I think we kind of went into that direction and feel good with where our team is and where our kids are right now.
Kirk, we'll have you go next.
Hey, Mike, have you talked to some coaching colleague friends in the business that have been in the playoffs before and picked their brain on any advice on, preparing for games like this?
Yeah, I think so. More so from a planning standpoint than a what the game is like standpoint. I think, last year was the first year of the 12-team playoff, and so a lot of guys had to go through this type of schedule. And so I think just how they managed players, how they managed practices, just kind of how they handled the whole process. I think those were things that were interesting to me. And so we were able to kind of dive into some of that for sure.
And as far as getting ready for Miami, is there a temptation to add a bunch of plays, and do you carry like two or three trick plays that you've been kind of saving all year?
I think that, you try to figure out what your best way is to be successful, no different than you would really any other game. And I think that's the route you try to take. You try to go in there and be as successful as you can on both sides of the ball.
Thanks.
Carter, we'll have you go next.
Hey, Mike. Will Wiggins and John Perry, will they still kind of split up the receiver duties now that Holman's at OC? And have you kind of made a decision yet on who will be your quarterbacks coach?
I think that you'll see John Perry take on a greater role with the wide receivers. I think that will be um, something to help Wiggins kind of take some of that off of his plate. Obviously, John's got a tremendous amount of experience, having coached the wideouts for 7 years with the Texans. And so I think we'll lean on that experience a little bit more, try to bring in another guy into the room that can help manage it. And obviously Wiggins will still be involved for sure, but I do think you want to allow him the opportunity to focus on just the overall unit and the play calling responsibilities that he's going to take on. And we'll get to the quarterback thing when the timing is right.
And then I wanted to ask you, back in the offseason, you predicted that A&M would have 10 to 12 draft picks in the coming year. What kind of gave you that confidence that you had this much talent, and how have they been able to kind of maybe live up to that bold expectation that you may have put on them, considering the historic nature of what that would mean?
Um, I don't know. I think just having been around what NFL players look like, um, having a pretty good feel for what that really is, not just speaking things, but really believing that's what we saw, and I think have had a pretty good eye for that over the years. And then obviously it's a credit to the kids that they developed and performed at the level that we believed they were capable of, and um, hopefully that's how it plays out and how it comes to fruition. I still think there's a lot that'll go into that process. And so, um, but I do think that we had the type of talent to kind of potentially push into those numbers.
Luke Cheney, will go over to you.
Hey, coach. So entering Saturday's game, Pro Football Focus has Miami as the second best team in the country at rushing the passer. I'm just curious from your perspective, what are some of the packages or the notable players that you've seen from Miami that you think has led to their success this season at affecting the passer?
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of mixing blitz and base. I think there's times where they allow their four down kids to just go to work. I think there's times where they add people into the rush at the right time, and that creates a lot of stress on offensive lines and protections, and creates a lot of one-on-ones for them. And I think the two edge kids are as talented a pair as I've seen in college football in a really long time. You got two high first round draft pick kids, and that's obviously a really, really large starting point. And then you've got kids on the inside that do a really, really good job of pushing and condensing the pocket to allow those edge kids to kind of really turn it loose a little bit. And so it's a really, really strong combination of a good package mixed with really good personnel. And that's always the route to success, right? When you do the right things schematically with really talented players, it creates a lot of challenges for the opposition.
Tyler Shaw, will have you next.
Mike, when you look at the kicking, do you plan on rolling with Randy Barnes on Saturday?
We'll make that decision on Saturday.
And then with the first availability report coming out, I know you've kind of alluded to, and not still up in the air, I guess, with Le'Veon Moss I guess things seem to be trending in the right direction for him to return.
We'll kind of keep it as wait and see, and we'll see how it goes.
Travis, will go over to you.
Yeah, hey Mike. Noah McHale was a kind of a factor in the Texas game with some different looks with him out there. What has he seen in his development that got him that opportunities, and what kind of does he bring when he's on the field with some of those other linebackers as well?
Yeah, I think Noah's going to be a really, really talented player. I think he's really grown this year in his confidence and his ability to go out there and perform at the level he's capable of. I think he can run. I think he can hit. I think he's very cerebral. I think he understands the game really well. And so, yeah, I think he brings a lot to the table when he's out there. And again, I think that's something you'll continue to see a decent amount of with him. And we're just really, really excited about his growth for now, and also what that's going to look like for the future.
Sam Khan, will go back to you.
Mike, when you alluded to earlier about getting soliciting guys about the routine or the plan and planning and handling the schedule, have you tried to stay true to kind of like the routine that you guys have had as a team in terms of how you handle practice and the schedule and the times and all that stuff? Has that stayed pretty consistent with what you've done all season, and how have you felt about how all that's played out?
Yeah, it's hard to stay consistent because it's the first time we've had 3 weeks between games, and so I think that's the part of the schedule that you're trying to manage. Obviously, you're not going to practice every day for 3 weeks, and so it's kind of how hard do you go, when do you go hard? I think that's more what you're trying to rely on conversations with your sports science team, conversations with other coaches who've been through it, to try to put the best plan in place together that you can. And again, our kids are in a really good place right now. I think we look really sharp and crisp at practice, and so we're excited with where we're at.
Brian Davis.
Mike, going back to coaching changes for just a second, you guys are trying to prepare for a CFP game. You got coaches looking at other things. Players are looking at their own situations. But I just wonder, as you manage all this, has it gone the last 3 weeks like how you had hoped it would go in terms of smooth and Everybody taking care of the main thing.
Yeah, I don't know that you ever go into it with any kind of hopes. I think that um, we've got a really good culture, we've got a really good organization, we've got a really good group of people, and we've got an opportunity to go compete in the national playoffs. And Texas A&M has never done that. And so I think all of those things combined to bring the focus back to the main thing when it's time to focus on the main thing. And so I don't worry about that. I know that's something that everybody wants to keep addressing and bring it up, but the reality of it is you've got coaches coaching in the playoffs for the first time, which they're very excited about. You've got players who've earned the right to go onto this stage and play, which they're very excited about. I think that's not something that we're really spending very much time worrying about or focusing on at all, to be honest with you.
All right, and then I will wrap this up speaking about a question on behalf of Aiden Hunter. Coach, he asks, one of the major complaints you described from the Texas game was that your players were not relaxed enough and were playing tight. From what have you witnessed from practice this week? Has the issue been resolved for Saturday?
Yeah, I think every time you get into an opportunity like this, you've got a chance to grow. And so every time we get to play a meaningful game here at Texas A&M, it's another chance for us to step onto a stage and grow. And so we're excited for the opportunity. Miami's a really talented team, and we look forward to the chance on Saturday.
All right, looks like we've got one last question, Bill Oliver. Bill, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Just forgot to click a button there. I wanted to follow up, Coach, on a couple of questions ago regarding the projected draft picks at the beginning of the season and play it out now where none of your guys have decided to stop playing for the Aggies and wait for the NFL draft. How significant is it that you have all your people available for the playoffs?
I think it's significant, but I also think it's kind of assumed at this point. I think that, um, again, I think maybe the magnitude of what we're about to go into is needs to be maybe, um, yeah, this is a really big deal. It's a big deal for these kids. It's a big deal for these coaches. It's a big deal for our program. And so I think that has helped all of the things that everybody is kind of talking about. You know, we haven't had anyone think about not playing in the game. We haven't had any coaches not focused. We haven't had any players not focused. We're playing in the college football playoff. This is a dream. When you get into college, when you start your playing days, and so there's a lot of excitement in our building. That's the word that is in our building right now, excitement.
And not having to deal with that on your plate, that has to be a big relief for you, I would think.
Yeah, I guess I would be shocked if that was something I was dealing with, though, to be honest with you. We haven't really seen much of that in the playoffs of kids not playing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that'll wrap us up today. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you.